What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Smack Talk podcast. This is, as you could tell, the WWE NXT Deadline 2024 Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show. Of course, we just got done watching the pay-per-view, so I'm going to run down everything that happened on that show, all my thoughts on everything, the usual stuff that we normally do on these kind of post-shows. I see that Peter is in the chat. He said, try to be done in 25 minutes. I'm going to give myself a 25-minute Iron Survivor challenge here on that. And since it is just me, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get it in on the 25-minute mark at least. So thank you for joining, Peter. Thank you for everybody else that's joining. I kind of have my screen a little bit blocking the numbers and stuff right now, but I'm assuming that people will chime in if they so choose to. If you do, of course, keep in mind the super chats. I got a goal going again. 10 super chats of, I think it's like the $2 mark, the lowest one or something onward. And if we get that, then you'll get a bonus episode this month of some kind. I don't know what. We'll try to figure that out. Keep in mind, though, of course, if you are listening to this after the fact or whatever it might be, there are lots of different ways for you to help us out. And there are some free options like the like button and the subscribe button. Also, ringing that notification bell for other future episodes. You know, if you did not get your email alert for going live on this one and you want to make sure that you are live for the Saturday night's main event podcast that's going to be on the Pay-Per-Viewpoint post show next Saturday night, then ring that little notification bell thing. Get that email alert set up and all. Double check that you are subscribed, as I said before. Also, keep in mind, though, if you do want to help us out on the monetary side of things, not only is it greatly appreciated no matter what you do, but there are so many different ways for you to do that. Actually, I should probably just put on this marketplace thing. The graphics a lot easier. Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can get your merchandise. Those shops for Smark Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and A Mango Tees are all on sale pretty much until the end of the year, so pick up your merch now. That's best time frame for you to be able to pick it up the cheapest. Patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment is the same thing essentially as the YouTube channel membership. The only benefit for the YouTube side of it is if you are part of the YouTube channel subscribers, then you get early access for content that we record in advance, and you also get a little icon next to your name that shows that you are part of that kind of crew. I see Bella's in the chat now. What's up, Bella? Also, you know, if you want to do the Pick Your Poison tier or, you know, click on the thanks button, any of that stuff's greatly appreciated. A little shout out as well to the Discord server. I always forget about doing that one first. You know, there's a little Fanboys Anonymous graphic for you. There's the Darkcast graphic for you. You should know how most of these things go by now. If you don't, then, you know, I mean, that's, you know, you might be pretty brave new to this, but everybody that's heard me say it a million times, different story. So I am at the 5-minute mark for this. So I've got 20 minutes left if I want to get under the Iron Survivor Challenge thing. This match that started off was the men's Iron Survivor Challenge. Now, heading into that, there was an hour-long countdown pre-show, which the only thing you needed to know about that was Ava started it off and said Eddy Thorpe has indeed been taken out of the match, and she will find a replacement. She didn't say what the replacement would be or how she would find that replacement or anything along those lines because they wanted to keep it a mystery. They wanted to keep you watching. At the very end, they just announced she's found a replacement, and we'll figure it out a little bit later. So as this went through, I'll actually be able to give you a full breakdown of everything that happens here because it's not as complicated as... It's more complicated to keep track of, but it's not as complicated to run down as like the Royal Rumble is. So the two that started off the match were Javon Evans and Wes Lee. After Lee pinned Evans, almost immediately Nathan Frazer came out. Then after that, Ethan Page was out next. Frazer pinned Page very quickly after that. Page eventually came back in. He pinned Frazer as kind of, you know, a counterpoint, like, fuck you, I got you now. Eddy Thorpe's replacement then was Obafemi. And that changed the whole matchup because then everybody was, of course, up against the wall against Obafemi. And I was surprised. I thought he was going to just immediately score like 3 pins or something. He got one on Evans. And then the next thing was Evans pinning Lee. Then Page pinned Femi and took him out of the match for 90 seconds. So remember, the way that this works is if you get pinned or you tap out or whatever it might be, then you have a 90-second penalty. You have to go in the penalty box for it. So that was throwing me off a little bit. I was like, okay, well, he was... You know, we were talking about this ahead of time of like, if it's somebody like Obafemi, then they're probably going to win. And when they took him out close to the end of the match, I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm going to be wrong. But Evans got a pin on Paige, and they had a good little thing there with Femi and Paige both in the penalty box at the same time, and Femi just like kind of wrecked Paige as like, angry kind of spot for getting that penalty box in the first place. So the match ends with Obafemi pinning both, I believe it was Nathan Frazer and Wesley, if I remember correctly, at the same time, gets 2 pinfalls within the last few seconds of the match, and he ends up winning the match with a score of 3. The other ones were, I think it was, 2 for, let me look it up. It's probably so much easier for me to just look up the thing. That's what I do. I do results, and I don't even bother to look it up. 2 for Paige, 2 for Evans, 1 for Frazer, 1 for Lee, and 3 for Obafemi. So this was, I think, pretty easily one of the more fun matches of the show. I actually thought that most of the matches were pretty decent. I have my least favorite, and I've got 2 that I was like, nah, this isn't really doing too well. We'll talk about them, when it comes around to it. But Obafemi wins, and it's an outcome that I'm okay with. I didn't really want Obafemi to be in this match, to be honest. I wanted Obafemi to win the NXT championship a little further down in the year, like maybe stand and deliver. And now that they introduced this thing, which this was a different thing that we didn't factor in when we were doing our predictions before, because we didn't know this was going to be a thing. But on SmackDown last night, Chad Gable came out, and he was cutting his promo. He interrupted Cody Rhodes and everything. And he had said the transfer window is going to be opening up soon. Now, we've never, as far as I can remember, had that kind of phrasing. Well, they somewhat further clarified when Raw goes to Netflix in January, they are going to have what they're calling, I guess, like the transfer window. And Raw, SmackDown, and NXT stars are going to be able to be traded back and forth. I don't know exactly how many people, what they're going to plan to do with all that stuff, but if SmackDown is supposed to get a 3rd hour and Raw is going back to 3 hours, they sort of needed to bring some people in NXT up to the main roster. And that could be all sorts of different people. So that could also include people a few weeks into this whole thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, okay, this is draft day, and once the draft goes down, then those are your picks and that's it. This could just be, well, the transfer window is open from January 1st until, WrestleMania or something. And I'm a little suspicious now that Obafemi won, because I was thinking that, maybe Hikuleo, Talatanga, whatever they want to call him, or Lance Anoa'i was going to end up being on this, or maybe it was going to be some, big thing with like Axiom and do the whole thing with the Fraxium thing. If Obafemi is already challenging Trick for the title, I kind of feel like he should win it. And if this happens at NXT New Year's Evil, maybe that's a means to get the title off of Trick and have Trick go to SmackDown already, or have him go to Raw or something. That could very well be the case, so I'm a little bit suspicious of that now. I don't think Obafemi should lose, but I also don't think Trick should lose it quite yet. So we're in a bit of a pickle there. But I do like Obafemi a lot, and if he wins the championship, I'll be 100% down for that, as long as they are able to figure out a way to bounce Trick back. Moving up to the main roster could be the way that they do that. So I'll keep an eye on that one. But I did kind of wanted to see somebody else, that Trick could just beat. Let me read some of these comments real quick. Glad Shawn Michaels made a good call tonight. Overall seems good. Wish the men's Survivor was the main event. Yeah, I could kind of agree there. I've been saying WWE needed to do the draft because USA drafted for Raw, not SmackDown, and Netflix had no picks in the kayfabe sense. It's a good way to put that. I didn't think about it that way. Yeah, Netflix has no rights to pick their own roster, I guess. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so I like this men's Survivor, Iron Survivor Challenge match. I thought this was, if not the best match of the night, the second best. I think it probably was the best, though. The NXT Underground match was the next one. This is one of the 2 that I wasn't super as into. Lola Vice beats Jaida Parker in a match that it was fine. There's really nothing to it that I could really break down and be specific about, that say, like, I liked this part of it or I didn't like this part of it or whatever. I don't have anything to say really to it. Lola Vice won. She should have won this. So maybe they have another match and it's just we sort out between the, one win apiece. They end up moving on and doing some other kind of a thing. But at this point, if they've already done a hardcore match and an NXT Underground match, I don't know where they go from there because a steel cage is not. Oh, wait, maybe they fight pit. Yeah, that's what they should do. Put the two in a fight pit. Keep the MMA thing, the hardcore thing going. Settle the score between those two. And then that should be the end of this feud. I don't know who I would go with on there. Maybe Jaida Parker would end up winning that one. I'd be fine with either of them because they both are kind of in the same range to me. Is like they're talented, but they're not my favorites on the roster right now, so I can't really root for one or the other. But maybe I'd lean a little bit more towards Jaida Parker. So if it's not what they do, if they don't do a fight pit, then I'll probably be disappointed now that I thought of that idea. I think that that's probably the best thing that I would pitch, at least if I was going to maybe be creative. If it's just the end of this, then okay, move on and just do something else. It was fine. The NXT Tag Team Championship match was next, and Axiom and Nathan Frazer, of course, were at a disadvantage because Frazer had been in the match earlier in the night, so he came out all taped up and exhausted and everything, so they did a good job with that. Although I'll say I'm disappointed. I liked the match, but I am disappointed in the outcome because OTM, or not Jaida Parker, but Bronco Nima and Lucien Price come out for some reason. I don't know why they needed to come out during this match. And there was like some moments where they were kind of, just kind of involved, but barely, not enough to cause a disqualification. They didn't really do anything. So they weren't serving much of a purpose there. And the thing I'm disappointed about here is this is the perfect means for them to have done the title change, and Axiom could lose, and it could be like, Frazer, if he was a part of this Iron Survivor Challenge match, then that's something that he didn't need to be a part of, and they would have retained their titles. If not, whatever. They just retained. And now I don't know where they need to go from here, but maybe there's a game plan of shifting the rosters around enough where somebody from the main roster comes down and they end up being the next tag team champions, and that could end up being a better solution. Because I wasn't super duper into the idea of no quarter catch crew winning these titles. I don't want OTM to win them either. So if that's the two option scenario, then I still would rather it be no quarter catch crew. But yeah, no, NQCC is not my favorite tag team either. Although Tavion Heights in particular, I think he's got a lot of upside to him. They retain their titles though, and I guess that's a good thing for them to be like, okay, well, we can showcase that they can even overcome the odds, and they were able to come back from being the underdogs in this scenario and all. But I still just don't really love Axiom either. The tag team division in NXT is pretty awful right now, so I miss those days of having like the best version of AOP and the War Raiders and DIY and the Revival and all these great tag teams going back and forth and stuff. I read a couple of chats moving around, so let's see what we got. I'll read these. Trick and Hayes will be a team along with Cora and Roxanne. Yeah. Aaron and Grace teams with Chelsea Green eventually. I could see them pairing work pretty well. Loving the solo episodes. Yeah. Draft was needed if they aren't ending the split brand. Yeah, absolutely. They needed to. Triple threat OTM versus no quarter catch crew, Axiom Frazer. It's probably going to be that three-way on NXT New Year's Evil. Yeah, I mean, the match itself, it was a solid match. I'm disappointed in the outcome because I at least would have been okay with that being the way that they lose those tag titles. And since they didn't, now I'm kind of thinking the next thing that they would end up having to transfer those titles might not be as effective. If it's just like OTM pins them, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed. Well, I'm going to be disappointed no matter what because I don't like OTM, but you know what I mean? So then my least favorite match of the night probably was the next one. That was Trick Williams versus Ridge Holland for the NXT Championship. And I almost fell asleep at one point. As you can tell, I am not sleepy right now. So it wasn't a matter of me just being so exhausted that I was going to fall asleep. I just got bored and I was comfortable and it just wasn't doing anything for me. So I just caught myself just kind of like blink, almost fell asleep. I like Ridge Holland more than a lot of people seem to. I don't know if that's really saying too much because a lot of people seem to like really dislike Ridge Holland. I think he's okay, but I will admit that like there's never really been anything with Ridge Holland that has been like a standout. Oh, I really like his, finisher or like his charisma or whatever. The thing I like best about Ridge Holland is this entrance theme. That's one of those ones that I downloaded and it was just like, oh, I love this song. Which, speaking of entrance themes, very weird to hear Trick Williams' theme come out, have him come out and Booker not do his stimming that we would know enough by now. He did it when Trick Williams retained, though, so maybe he was like, oh, I'm going to save it for afterward or something. I don't know. But I thought that the match was just kind of bland, and I didn't anticipate that Ridge Holland would win, so I was already going into it just sort of waiting for the pinfall to happen, and I want Trick to move on. I kind of want him in some ways to lose that championship to Obafemi and to just go up to the main roster. I also kind of want Trick to stick around and have a stronger title reign if he has the right opponents for it. But I don't really know who, like, it's Wesley's the only other person I can think of that's somewhat decent enough for them to have a match. And unless the game plan is to set up Obafemi loses and then it's Wesley and Wesley's the guy that beats Trick or something, then I kind of feel like his time's running out. And that's okay. Nobody can hold a championship forever. Trick's had a good enough year that if he were to drop this title, even though that specific title reign only started however long ago, I think that we could just call it a day and, it is what it is. I see Ashton is in the chat. Thank you, Ashton, for all the support. We have an exchange to set up someone versus Trick. The backstage segments that happen around here, Javon Evans and Wes Lee had a little thing. Ethan Page at one point was saying that like he doesn't know how to get back to the mountaintop. Lexis King had one where he was saying that this was like Minneapolis was like a special place for him because this is when he got like cast aside and so on and so forth. Nothing really super great, any of those backstage things. So I didn't really even bother to report on them. And then we had the main event, the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge match. I'm at 19 and a half minutes. Let's see if I can get this in under 5. Giulia, Ruca, Stephanie Vaquer, Wren Sinclair, Zaria. They start off the match with Giulia and Wren Sinclair. Ruca comes out next. Giulia pins Sinclair. Kind of a running theme about this. Zaria comes out next. Ruca pins Sinclair. Stephanie Vaquer comes out next. Zaria pins Giulia. Threw me off a little bit there. Vaquer pins Sinclair. Sinclair pins Ruca. And at that point, I said it out loud even. I was like, well, the person I thought was going to win is mathematically impossible at this point for her to win. She, at that point, was only, she only scored 1. And there was like, I think it was like a minute and like 10 seconds or something left in the match. And you have a 90-second penalty. So she was just, it's impossible for her to come back and also score a 3 count for, a victory. So at that point, I was like, all right, well, I don't know where they're going to go, but ended up being a Giulia. She got the last pin over Zaria, I think. And she ends with a score 2, and that's enough to pay, putting her over everybody else that had just won. So they did the thing that I didn't think that they would do specifically. I was like, well, if they have just Giulia, Zaria, or Stephanie Vaquer, and they just give this to one of them, why didn't they just give it to one of the other ones? Like, why are we kind of bouncing back around here? And I'm curious about that for a couple different reasons. One being, why didn't Giulia just beat Roxanne Perez when she had that match? Why do we have to do all this kind of like circling around just to get back to that in New Year's Evil? And then the way that I thought about it, it's the Shawn Michaels rule that we keep talking about. How often do we keep saying Shawn really likes booking somebody to lose their first opportunity at a title and then to come back to that person and they end up winning the second time? It's Shawn and Triple H. I mean, Triple H has done it for a couple different things. Braun Breaker did it for the Intercontinental Championship. Cody Rhodes, of course, did it for the WWE Championship. So it's a little strange. I mean, even DIY had an opportunity against Motor City Machine Guns, didn't come up, with the belts. Tag team champions on SmackDown last night. So I guess we really need to think about it that way. For everybody that's like a Tony D'Angelo that has a match, fails, comes back, wins it. I guess we have to start calling maybe Obafemi is going to have his match against Trick Williams and he's going to lose, and then he's going to have another one and then he's going to beat Trick. I don't know. But now Giulia is the number one contender. She is also going to be facing Roxanne Perez at New Year's Evil. I think at this point they should just put the belt on Giulia. Roxanne is bland as the heel champion. Her promos are exactly the same each and every week that she does cut a promo. I look forward to when she doesn't because I don't like those promos. And I like Roxanne, but she's just not an engaging character that way. So I would rather have it be Giulia wins and we can kind of, maybe they do a triple threat at Stand and Deliver. We've got potentially like Vengeance Day or Roadblock or whatever they decide to book in the meantime. As far as I'm aware, they haven't confirmed any pay-per-views. I mean, they still haven't even confirmed NXT Stand and Deliver, so maybe they switched that around a little bit too. Usually they end up doing that, but I'm going to be rooting for Giulia to win that championship. I'm going to be somewhat rooting for Obafemi to win the championship from Trick Williams. And I guess we're going to see how the rest of this plays out. The Ethan Page stuff and the Eddy Thorpe stuff and whatever. And pay-per-view wise, not a bad pay-per-view. Not my favorite. I don't know if I'm going to write any of this stuff down to the end of the year awards. I think probably not. But again, I haven't really been doing too much about that. So I'm going to have to take a look at those lists and see if maybe something comes up here. Because a little bit of surprises here and there and stuff. But I recommend if you, for some reason, want to go back and check this out and you didn't already and you just listened to everything that happened and you still are potentially interested, I would recommend checking out both the Iron Survivor matches. And then if you have a little bit more time, go back and check out the tag team title match. The other two, I think you can entirely skip. So it's 24:10. That means I have just enough time to read these couple little things in the comments and then say adios. Vaquer and Zaria can be heels. Too many mystery attack angles at once. I like them. Yeah, way too many mystery attack angles at the same time. All right. So, the setup of the next couple weeks that we're going to record and everything is going to be, it's potentially a little bit up in the air and all, but the game plan is basically we got Saturday night's main event coming up next week. So we're either going to do a separate predictions post or we're going to combine that with the hot tags and then do the hot tags, of course. Saturday night's main event is on next Saturday night. It'll be from, I think, 8 to 10 p.m. So at 10 p.m., we're going to go live for the post show. And then the week after that, we're going to start getting into the end of the year stuff. So we're going to record that stuff as much in advance as possible and roll that out on like a one per day kind of setup and do the AEW awards, do the WWE awards. Remember, if you are a part of the ad block forgiveness $5 tier or up higher than that, the early access one, you get the early access for those. So whenever we record them, you'll be able to listen to all of them whenever we have, can upload them. And, the next thing we know, it's going to be World's End. It's going to be the end of the year. So stay tuned for everything that's coming your way. We got a super chat from Ashton. Thank you, Ashton. Gunther match you'd want to see against an AEW guy. That was a lot. I'll spoil something for the Darkcast for anybody that didn't check that out for the WWE versus AEW thing. I booked Gunther against Kazuchika Okada. I think that could be a really good match. Gunther Hobbs, Gunther Danielson, that would be great. Gunther Claudio would be really good. Gunther Will Ospreay, Gunther Samoa Joe would be really good. Yeah, there's so Gunther would be one of the main people I'd want to pass around there. Yeah, I got all the usual stuff. Fantasy League, I don't know what the differences are. I dropped LA Knight for my team, and I traded Randy Orton for Drew McIntyre. For anybody that's interested in that, then I don't think that anybody... Oh, wait, Callum did something. I forget what he did. But Callum will fill you in on that, in due time. And yeah, just keep checking out all the stuff on amangotree.com that you see on the link tree. Fanboys Anonymous stuff, Smark Moment stuff, things like my Letterboxd and all. check that all out and follow me at Tony Mango on most of these different platforms. I'm still not really even on Blue Sky, but I might pop up more on there too. So even though that's not on my screen at this moment, I just did make the graphic for it. I'll do that at some point. Anything else you find on smarkamoment.com? You know the deal. It's always stuff posting there, stuff on the YouTube channel and all. So you just kind of hang around this space, hang around on the Discord server, check out all the normal stuff that we've got going on, and I'll be seeing you when I see you. But that's going to do me in for the NXT Deadline Pay-Per-View-Point post-show, for at least for 2024. And I will see you next time around in either a special dedicated video specifically for the NXT, or not NXT, the WWE Saturday Night's main event predictions, or on the hot tags. Adios for now, though, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and I'm being counted out.